Hello, welcome to episode 5 of our No Holds Barred Pod discussions series. Sal's making faces as if she's not sure.
No, it's a mouthful. I was willing you through.
Well, it's our little side project of just when we have guests in and like to talk about one specific subject. Well, sort of in theory. Exactly. So, we've got a special guest today. We'll come to him in a moment. I'll let him introduce himself, but we have to say that's Sal Dodgson over there.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello. And you all right, Sal?
Yeah, I didn't know if I was supposed to carry on with anything then. I'm a bit tired because I went on another demo yesterday, so sorry.
It's all right. So, and I'm Don, and I'll throw over to Mike to give himself a little quick introduction before we carry on. That's cool.
I always prefer it when, I'm very British about this, so I prefer it if somebody else introduces me than me do it, because it sounds like you're bragging, doesn't it? But
I know.
I'm Mike Dix. In this context, I am probably most known for running a social media account called Trumpton, which I've been running since Farage came up on my radar in 2014. And I do cartoons. I've kind of taken over the town of Trumpton from the 1960s and filled it with the most vile, horrible politicians and whatever. And then, Donald Trump came along and played into my hands for the name. So it's kind of a popular thing and keeps me going.
I love Trump.
I live in Brighton and I try and pay the bills by doing work for horrible marketing people sometimes. Basically.
Right, fair enough.
Gotta eat.
Cool. Well, welcome, Mike. Thanks for coming in. We have we chatted before about a specific reason for coming in, which we wanted to have a little chat about the Renters' Rights Act, because that has impacted you quite severely and personally, hasn't it, recently?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think like all of us, particularly progressive people, you get a problem of your own and then you scratch the surface and go, oh my God, this is a huge problem for a lot of people, worse off than me as well. But if you want the sort of headline story, I had a major surgery, life-changing, life-saving surgery 6 weeks ago. And I got home to a Section 21 no-fault eviction notice from my landlord. Various complications in my tenancy and things over the last 6 months while I've been dealing with cancer. But there's absolutely no fault. I've kept the tenancy payments up. It's literally that they waited till the last minute before the law changed and they issued an eviction notice. Today, just to sort of highlight that, I went to the housing office because, I'm very positive about these things. This is, in a lot of ways for me, I'll go on to explain, but it's probably a really good opportunity and a good change for me. They've nudged me in the right direction. I'm not grateful to the greedy bastards, basically. But,
the time and shit, though, Christ.
With hindsight, I might be grateful to them. But I'm in the housing office with young families, with 2 young kids, both of whom have asthma, probably from the landlord's property that's causing that for them. Who've had an eviction notice with 3 weeks eviction notice with the kid about to start school. Sitting next to a 65-year-old guy who lived in a flat for 16 years, in a room in a house of multiple occupancy for the last 16 years. And the landlord's just flipping the house and chose the last minute to issue a Section 21 eviction order. A bipolar guy who's currently having to live with 5 teenagers in a shared accommodation because he got an eviction order. Like story after story, and those are just the ones that I touched on today. And then talking to the housing officer who's been incredibly helpful. And, I have to stress, I get how I come across, right? A number of people sat there while I was in the queue asking me if I was a housing officer.
You're erudite.
That's fair.
And fundamentally, it's like the reason I do politics really is that I'm a white, middle-aged, cis male, and the entire system of government is designed by people like me for people like me, and I can manipulate those systems. I've got a lot of experience with the NHS recently, and I know that I can work out the motivations of doctors and managers and everything else to get the best out of the system for me, and they'll listen to me because I'm a white, middle-class, middle-aged, cis male. And in this instance, I'm sitting next to a Mexican-Lithuanian family who were just in absolute despair. Resilient human beings, incredibly resilient human beings and positive about things. But, and then talking to a housing officer, and I said to him, look, before I get into the emotional stuff of this, and I cried in that meeting, and I might cry in this podcast occasionally if you get me on the wrong subject. But I said to him, let's just deal with the politics of this. I said, there's a huge queue of people here who all got eviction orders roughly on the same day in order to squeak through before this law changes.
Yeah.
And I said, is there any provision been made by national government to help you help them?
That'd take
foresight. And he went, no. And we're a cash-strapped council. Brighton might be in the rich southeast, but we do have huge amounts of poverty in this area as well. And the council's not been run well for many years. And it's a cash-strapped council. He's now having to foot the bill for, just a roll back. The Renters' Rights Act is a good act, right? It's not. It doesn't go far enough, but it absolutely secures against things like this. One of the first provisions in that act is that landlords won't be able to issue Section 21s. And to explain to your audience, the Section 21 is a no-fault eviction. It just means the landlord is saying, you're a perfect tenant, but I want you out. And they don't have to give any reason for that as long as they give you the right notice. Normally, it's because they want to put the rent up, but they daren't say, because then you could take them to court. Or it's because they do want to sell the house, basically. There's been, in the last 2 months, a 65% increase in those evictions since last year.
Yeah, I was looking at the figures for it just before. Yeah.
And it's all to avoid giving renters these rights so that they've got some security and dignity in their life, basically. And the council is being forced to deal with that. Now, in my case, I went with a plan. I'm lucky enough that I reached out to friends. I went public. I mean, that's, being honest with you, even doing this podcast is a difficult decision to make because I don't want to go out there saying to people, I'm in trouble. I'm relying on some benefits because I've been ill for 18 months. My work I've not been able to work properly for 18 months. I'm very grateful to the government for supporting me through that process. But I don't want to go out and say, hey, guys, I need somewhere to fucking live. Can you help, basically? Yeah, it's not like I'm saying I won't pay. I'm saying I'll get money from the government. I can pay you. The balance of this is that, and this is where you'll get. This is where I probably shouldn't head. But I have been reached out to by friends and fans of Trumpton. One in particular, who I won't mention in case it all doesn't work out, but who has offered me an incredible opportunity and has clearly said, because your cartoons are giving me joy through this shitty Brexit process, basically. I want to help
strangers
you.
Is incredible, isn't it?
Amazing.
Yeah, incredible. And it puts me in a position where I can go to the council with a plan to stop me being homeless. Not everybody in that queue had anything like that. They were turning up there in a desperate state to say, I'm going to lose my home in 2 weeks and my kids won't have anywhere to live. And the council are obliged to help most of these people. So the taxpayer, our rates are going to go up as a result of all of this because we've got this surge that we've got to pay for. And how do we do it? And the Renters' Rights Act is all about stopping that happening, giving you some dignity in life as a tenant, stopping you having to keep these credentials as a tenant. So don't upset any landlords because other landlords will find out about it and then you'll be a black marked tenant. And you think, to be honest with you, I've lived my life as a tenant since my last divorce, just basically going, you know what? I get the game, I'll play the game. But these fuckers, basically, the landlords are not being taxed properly on these second properties and third properties. They whinge constantly if they do get any tax put upon them. And the outcome of all of this is that they're going to sell these houses. They'll probably have to sell them. The market's going to be flooded with houses, but no tenancies for all these people that need tenancies. Yeah. Most likely all these houses are going to be brought up by a housing association at best or a corporation at worst. And we're just going to end up with this huge private sector of renting. I can only hope that flooding the market with houses brings house prices down, but then obviously that's going to piss off a lot of homeowners, basically. So, you can't win in these situations.
No.
But yeah, that's my personal situation, and it's touching on the politics, because the problem with progressive people always is that you get affected by something and then you go, but but geez, that must be hurting other people more.
Yeah, well, that's why we started the pod.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% that.
If we were right wingers, we wouldn't give a shit. We'd write to somebody in Thailand, ask for £5 million and buy 2 homes in Clacton, basically.
Exactly.
We'd be fine.
Yeah. That's it. I know.
But yeah,
the curse of empathy, I think it is, isn't it, really?
Do you know, I've got to...
It is, but I'd rather be us.
Oh, yeah.
In this situation.
Definitely be in that boat rather than the other, for sure. Excuse me. Yeah. So, yeah, it's quite heartbreaking when you sort of talk about the really sort of hard, downtrodden people that you've seen in the council offices, because there's so many of those people. I know lots of stories from...
Strongest, most resilient people I've
I bet.
Weeks,
yeah, I bet.
Mate, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's people that need help, and are being forced into a situation where the taxpayer is handing over money to rich landlords, to pay their mortgage so that they can get richer. If you think about it.
One thing I would...
Why we don't have a scheme for renters that says the government will pay the deposit and guarantor you a mortgage for the first 5 years, and you pay exactly what you're paying in rent now to buy property, basically, and get yourself on the ladder.
Yeah.
Why don't we? It's crazy.
There was a bit of a chat about that when I don't know who was in Prime Minister. It was a few years back. There was one of the Tories, one of the many Tory Prime Ministers. There was some chatter about that and being able. Was it Johnson? And he was talking about using rent payments to go towards credit rating and building your mortgage rating, but that never panned out, did it?
Yeah, the young family I was talking to, there's a whole bunch of woo-woo coincidences in all of this. I have a girlfriend, Maria, who's self-describes herself as being a bit spiritual and woo-woo, basically, and she's Mexican, lives in Spain.
Oh, cool.
One of the outcomes of all of this deadline is that we're now accelerating a plan to live together, and that's awesome, basically. And but then I sit down in the housing office, and the woman sitting next to me is Mexican. I've only met 2 Mexican women in my life. One of them I'm going to live with, and the other one was in the housing office at the time I'm facing this crisis. But yeah, I did from their perspective, basically, they literally just need a little bit of help to make that family work, basically. Lithuanian husband, Mexican wife, hardworking, they've worked solidly. They're using universal credit just to help them exist in an expensive city, basically. And then landlords are just sitting there raking money off them, a fortune.
It's inconceivable.
Them,
passive income, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is. It's a very strange setup in this country for renting, and I rent. We've never bought a house. We've always rented our houses because we've moved around a bit and lived abroad and things. But I think the UK is probably the least progressive. This new bill is, as you said earlier, is much more progressive than it has been previously. But we're still a long way behind, I think, other European countries.
Could go much further, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. Rent control, particularly,
which was in Angela's original plan to try and insert into this and was taken out.
Exactly.
In effect, we are paying the mortgages of rich people on their second homes through taxpayers' money.
And third and fourth.
Why aren't we paying for mortgages for hardworking families that want to get themselves just one home? Basically.
Yeah, exactly. Look at Malcolm Offord.
And I agree with you. Renting kind of suits me at the moment because I am flexible. But I don't want to be doing that forever. No. I've been very, very ill in the last year, and it's given me a completely new perspective. In the run-up to, there's another area I don't deal with very well, but because I haven't really processed it well enough. But in the run-up to this eviction order this year, since December, I have been facing an existential crisis of deciding whether I want to live or die. I had elective surgery, quite dramatic surgery that is life-changing. And the decision was clearly, you can either do the surgery or you can die. And the reality is that's not such an easy question to answer at 59 when you've got problems with your landlord, and your income isn't fixed because you've had 18 months of losing all of that. And being honest, on a positive note, I've done a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of people like my work. This is a good example of somebody that loves my work and wants to help me, and that's lovely. But I genuinely was going through a decision of, if I do this surgery and live, I've got grandchildren, all of the answers about third party, I've got a girlfriend, I've got all these things, and all of these people said to me, of course you need to do it because we want you alive. And I'm going, well, that's about you, not me.
Yeah.
So I need to want to live, you know. And I got through that process and decided I do. But I absolutely was determined that if I come out of it well and I get my energy back and I'm healthy for a few years until it comes back, which it might, then I absolutely don't want to carry on living the way I am. I've got things to do that I really want to do, and I've got changes I want to make to the way that I live. And so this is a bit of an opportunity for me. But I think in terms of all these other people, they are literally just trying to get their kids into school and keep their job in Tesco's, basically.
Yeah.
You know? And we don't have a system that can support them. And I'll give you an example from Spain. My girlfriend lives in a flat that was built, block of flats, designed for families. And opposite it, built at exactly the same time, was an old people's home. And the policy in Spain was to say, when your parents get dementia or whatever, you can put them in this home, and then you can rent one of these properties, and then they can help look after your kids, which will bring them joy and make them happy, and you can look after them without them having to live with you. And we reduce our social security bills in all sorts of ways because you're both caring for each other and making life better for each other. You know, why aren't we doing things like that? That makes and in my situation, I have two grandchildren, one more on the way. Anybody that wants to introduce a policy like that, I mean,
it's such a simple way of doing it, though, isn't it? It's not splitting the
based
atom.
around the family. Yeah.
It just doesn't profit anyone.
That's the problem.
No, exactly.
Yep.
Having lived in Spain and Portugal, and I know how family orientated they are and how important that part of everything is faced around family. Yeah, and building a society around that community just makes sense, right? In our countries.
And a lot of the rules that apply, you know, I was lucky enough to do all the research, so I knew a way through the system for me that might work in this situation, basically. So I was able to present to the housing officer, here's what I'd like to do. Is it possible? And I knew it was possible because I'd researched it in the system, basically. But again, that's a system designed by people like me for people like me. And if you just go there saying, can you give me an answer? Most of the rules that apply make it very difficult for you to fall in love and cohabit with somebody. They make it very difficult for you to have children. They make it very difficult for you to move to somewhere more pleasant.
You will not have extra money from the state. You will have a reduced joint amount.
It's almost designed to keep you single, to keep you in a single occupancy house, basically, and for your life to never really change without the risk of losing income or support, basically, at some point in time. And
manufactured churn. Yeah, that's awful, isn't it, really?
Because Joe, I don't know if you know...
Whereas if a housing officer sat there and said, which they didn't, what's the family situation? Is there any way we could move you nearer to family that can help, etc., etc.? Can we help them to help you, etc.? Which is what they're doing in Spain. You kind of go, that would be a better solution for everybody, basically. You know?
I mean,
they also last year in Spain they introduced a thing called an abuelo visa, which is entirely designed for young families to be able to look after their grandparents if they don't live in Spain. And the grandparents to do some babysitting for the kids, basically.
Right.
It's like a visa designed to achieve the same thing as these two blocks of flats next to each other.
So they can bring their grandparents in for a period of time to help them out or what have you.
Put them under their social security and, you know...
I mean, for what it's worth, I do know that in this country, if you're a council tenant and you want to move areas, your application is looked on more better if you have family in the area you're moving to, so you've got like a reason. Right. But because we've got such terrible housing stock, it's pointless.
Yeah,
because you're going to be sat there for 5. Well, I was sat there for 5 years waiting.
Well, they're very kind of, you know, I've well, that's you didn't need the psychotic bit. We can assume it.
Well, I also had a psychotic next door neighbour. I mean, my landlord at one point turned up at my front door with a piece of paper, just written on it, "Move out of this house, or we will get your son," who was 14 at the time. No. Oh, and this was when before I'd figured out I had akathisia. I thought my brain was dying, but I was being so over-medicated that I couldn't get to the end of a sentence, Mike, without forgetting what I was talking about. I was toast. Absolute toast. And between that, Corbyn in 2019, I ended up trying to check out. And for whatever reason, it didn't work.
Are they fixing that with medication? Is that something that you've got control
I fixed
of
it myself by removing the medication. I mean, it's a very long sort of story, but I talk about it as much as I can. I talked about it recently, haven't I? Because it's so little known about. But I am convinced, you cannot tell me otherwise, that there aren't thousands of people who are because the mental health services were telling me I was mad. And so they put extra medication on top. And I'm like, every cell in my body was vibrating, and I wanted to tear my own skin off, as well as having like all my other chronic issues in my spine and my guts. And it was, I was done, like you were talking about before, because also that was before I'd done a lot of my education on psychology, and I was still blaming myself for being a moral failure when there were no support services around for me. And every time I got an advocate, I'd have them for 6 months and they get cut and we get nowhere.
Yeah.
It's just impossible.
Yeah.
And this is why debts
and in a
of
way,
despair.
One of the things you said about, if you've already got a low self-esteem and you don't believe that you should get these things, if you're constantly
added to which,
living up to that expectation in some way, that's terrible.
When you're that sort of low, like I didn't look in a mirror for 10 years because I didn't have the energy to concentrate on me. I had a kid, and all I had was the energy to make sure he was going to be all right, and that was it. It was a lot easier, to be honest, but then you're walking around looking like a bag of rubbish, and people treat you like shit. You can't win. Then if you dress up and you look okay, you're lying.
Hey,
What'd you do?
I genuinely had a dilemma this morning as to, do I dress like I always dress every single day, which doesn't cost me a lot, but I put a lot of thought into it, basically. And I look reasonably smart most of the time.
You do.
Or is today a hoodie day, basically? Because
I've done one pod like that, haven't I? When I just couldn't be asked.
I was after you'd had your spine operated.
True.
If this had happened 3 months ago, I'd have looked terribly ill, and now I don't. So there's no way around it. Basically, I can't dress.
Oh, it's great to see you on the up though as well. I know this isn't helping, but this is. Why are they just?
No, but Sally, let me tell you something, and let me tell the audience something. Right, I genuinely don't really give a shit about this, right? Because in the past, this would have panicked me into anxiety attacks and all sorts of things. But the reality is, there's fuck all they can do. They ain't going to hurt me. If I sit tight and a bailiff knocks on the door at some point in time, well, good luck to them, because I'll argue with them into the ground for a day and it'll be fun. I don't really mind, because I know I've got options, and that's one of the things.
Yeah.
If you're, if you're, as this couple I met today, one's from Lithuania, one's from Mexico, you've got no family here, no support network, basically. If you don't have a 35,000 follower social media profile that can publicise your situation, then that's not as easy. But I got options, and I just kind of think these people don't deserve my anger. They don't deserve me to be upset about it, and they don't deserve to scare me, basically. And to use Maria's woo-woo, I'd say that the universe seems to be lining itself up right now to say, actually, we're going to get you through this one, Mike. It's okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But it isn't okay on these others, and that's the point. That's why I was very happy for your invite to come and talk about it, because
there's thousands.
To me, it's like we need to reassure some other people there are things they can do.
Yeah.
That's fair.
One thing I would stress, if you get a Section 21 order, the first thing is that does not mean you have to leave on the date they're telling you they want you to leave. That even if it's issued before the new Renters Act, where they'll no longer be legal, even if it's done up to that deadline, that you are able to stay in the property after that date if you can't get alternative property, as long as you continue to pay the rent. You are then at risk of the bailiffs knocking on the door, but actually the day that they tell you they want you out is the day they apply to the court to get a court order to get you out. And that currently is taking 6 to 8 months. And I imagine with a 65% increase in these cases, it's going to take 12 months. And it's going to cost the landlord a lot of money for you to sit tight. So if you're in a position to sit tight and you want to stay in the property you're in, I'd advise that you do that and go to the shelter.org to look at their advice section or the citizens advice section to tell you what your rights are in that situation. Because it doesn't mean you have to leave on the day that they're saying. It just means that's the day they're going to take you to court. So it's not a great solution because it also means that you'll probably end up with a black mark against you as a tenant, basically. But if you keep paying the rent and you've got approval from the council to do that, and the council will tell you, the housing office will say, these are your rights, you can stay there. Right. And if the council say that to you, then get a letter from the council saying that's the advice they've given you. And then actually this won't besmirch you can actually share that with new landlords, basically.
That's very good advice.
Put a little addendum in because not all landlords are over their business. I got 3 Section 21s from that monster and every single one of them was fraudulent because he didn't want to have to spend the money. So first check it's real because they will do
check
this.
It's valid. They have to give you an EPC rating. They have to do it properly. Yes. There are things they have to do to make it official. Sadly, mine seemed to be quite efficient finally, basically. But in my case, I don't mind because the reality is what I want to do is get out of here as quickly as possible. So I stop handing money to that wanker.
Yeah. There is a silver lining.
Yeah. Yeah, the quicker I can get out, the better. But I'm giving maybe I shouldn't say this on a podcast, but I'm giving them every impression I might stay. Basically, because it's a negotiation position, isn't it? They want me out.
Yes.
So if I say no, well, I'm not leaving, but maybe we could talk about it if basically, then So my hope is that we get all this sorted and I move out in the next 3 weeks, basically. But it might take a bit longer. So.
But it is great to highlight it because, like you say, it's just an ongoing increasing problem, and it's snowballing, and until. I don't know how many houses Labour are building to compensate for social housing.
It's something like
it ain't going to be enough.
2.5 million less than we need, basically.
Yeah, basically.
What's the point?
They've got extremely lofty ambitions, but they're not really measured up to it so far. So,
I don't know whether this is accurate or not, but a Guardian journalist friend of mine wrote to me and said, I'm sorry about your situation. She said, I know it won't compensate, but here's a useful bit of information. She was talking to a source in the government, in the DWP, who was saying that part of the way they've rolled this out and part of the plan is to get as many of these sort of what you can call reluctant landlords or semi-private landlords, people that aren't doing it as a business, but they just happen to have properties they're renting for whatever reasons, and bad landlords, to get them out of the system.
Yeah.
And to put more housing into the housing market, into the retail market for houses.
Yeah, mortgages.
By the back door and bring house prices down to make them more affordable. And my answer to her was, those are all laudable ambitions, right? But if they're trying to do that by stealth, I think that's a really dumb idea for the government to try and do. Because really if you know, it's not long before everybody finds out. And if it turns out that is part of their motivation, then they're going to have the middle class homeowners come down on them like a ton of bricks, basically, at that point.
And they're already pissed off.
And that's just going to, and that's going to lose them votes. So it doesn't make any sense. But if they came out with a positive, alongside the Renters' Rights Act, we're going to double our house building profile, and all of the houses we build will be built for people currently in private tenancies if they want to buy them. And here's how we're going to enable them to get mortgages. Yeah. And here's how we're going to do social housing to help you look after your older relatives. This is a big idea on how we change the way we live and work in this country. I mean, you could buy into that. You could either buy into it or not. It's a policy position that many Tories and Reform voters would not vote for. But
no,
never.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's one for you. Where do you stand on right to buy?
What, in terms of the history of?
Well, no, in terms of that it's still an ongoing thing now when we've got,
It's what's caused this problem.
Struggle. Well,
Right to buy has caused this problem because Thatcher introduced it without sell one, build another one.
Well, yeah, she said she wouldn't. This didn't. So,
it was always doomed. And that's how, when my grandmother died 15, 20 years ago, she'd been in a council flat all her life, and we had the opportunity while she was ill to do right to buy on it, which might have given us a property that we would end up as a reluctant landlord, or I might end up living there or whatever. And she was a Labour councillor, and she just said, "Don't you fucking dare." Basically, she said, council houses should be there for when I die, a young family gets this flat. Basically, and that's exactly the way it should work.
I've got aspirations of one day maybe buying my own small home at some point. And I find it really difficult because I want to be able to pass this on to somebody else who needs it, because that's how it should fucking work. But then other people who'd say it would be the smart move would buy it. And I just can't. Like, I'm as poor as a church bloody mouse. Do you know what I mean? I could do with something like that, but I find it morally reprehensible in the current climate.
It goes back to what we were saying about the problem with progressives, isn't it? Basically, my grand's sitting there on a potential gold mine of a flat to flip, and she's going, "Sorry, got morals, can't do it."
But how much worse would it be if it wasn't for people like us who hold morals dear, as unfashionable as they might be?
Being honest, one of the things coming out of surgery is, look, I understand how the right wing make their money in politics. I understand how Tory voters, let's not even give them their political labels, but people that are a bit more selfish in the way that they operate in society.
Greedy.
I understand how they make money. I understand why they make money. And there's a part of me that goes, yeah, fuck it, I'll do some of that as well, basically. I'll just find a moral reason to do it, but fundamentally you got to go, look, we can't just keep complaining about these buggers making a lot of money. We have to find a way for us to make money out of being morally good, basically. And I know how hard that is for all of us, but some of it we're just going to have to go, there's a couple of things that might cause you a moral quandary, but do you want to buy a house or not?
Yeah.
Basically, and I think there's always a limit, isn't there? I've often said to a number of progressive podcasters, when we look at Russian money coming into right-wing networks, etc., and they're always going, this is disgusting. And I'm going, okay, but let me just try something on you. If I gave you $1 million, would you be happy enough to make 5 talking points across the year for me, basically? And no questions asked what those talking points are. You just got to find a way to weave them into your podcast. And being honest with you, I could have started at 100,000.
Everyone's got a price.
Left wingers.
Everybody. Yeah.
There is a price that you'd be willing to say, actually, Russia's not so bad in Ukraine. Maybe we should look at both sides of the argument.
Oh, hey, relative to the USA, it isn't. I could get down with that.
If Iran would pay me to make some of those Lego videos, I'd be quite happy, basically.
I know. I'm loving them at the minute.
Because they're bloody good as well. I'm looking at these.
I've not found
I often think with those, not to go off topic too much, but I look at them and go, can you imagine being a Lego executive and watching that?
I know.
And just going, what do we do? Do we take it down for copyright? Or
just
Trump's tariffs and the oil price killing our business? So we should probably let them have fun, basically.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about it on the pod, those, and it's kind of like at the beginning we were a bit kind of reticent to sort of, give them sort of airtime and think, but now they're just hilarious, and you've got to talk about them.
They're accurate. They're true. They're more news than the news is.
Yeah, and they're doing better than me.
Trump.
My argument as to what the job of a satirist is to poke those people that decide that they're in charge of us. And to poke their ego and their conscience constantly. Yeah. And if you can get one cartoon that one of these bastards, the reason I've got a very popular account is Nigel Farage got pissed off at a joke I did 10 years ago, basically, and it just blew up overnight in terms of popularity. And for me, it's always about, can you poke the pompous? And what Iran are doing, however they're doing this, with their understanding of the nuances of politics and egos in the West, is brilliant. It's just brilliant. They get it right every single time, basically.
It really is. It is. Yeah. Their social
because
media stuff is amazing.
If they were as well made as they are, but the narrative was Western capitalist wanky wank, basically. You go, oh no, that's right, whatever. Yeah. You got this wrong. But they're just going, JD
Every
Vance,
single
you
one
fuck
is
sofas. Exactly. It's like,
Cash Patel, you're a pisshead. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I know. They're great.
Did you see the Brexit one, Mike?
Sorry.
I didn't. No, I haven't seen that one yet.
I'll send it to you. Brexit is shit.
Please do.
It's the bomb.
Oh, yeah, it's funny.
It's often the problem, isn't it, that this is one of my controversial views, but if you read some of the things that Osama bin Laden used to say, you go, actually, I agree with some of this. He's not.
We've been
not
lied
totally
to forever, though.
He's not wrong about oil and capitalism and everything else. Basically, he's got a point.
Yeah.
And some of the, Ted Bundy and people like that, you read their manifestos, you go, well, is it bad that I kind of think at least 50% of this is okay? Basically.
You take the murder out of it, it's actually fine, yeah.
I totally think make a Lego movie instead of bombing people, but, it's like...
Definitely.
Maybe that was Iran's learning after 9/11. They went, look, it was a pretty expensive gig for us to train these pilots and get them to fly into planes. Why don't we just make Lego versions of it?
Yeah.
And the internet will just believe whatever we've made is true, so it's fine, basically.
Yeah. Well, the prime example of that is they put a post out at the weekend. There was something about kamikaze dolphins with mines strapped to their backs. And then today in the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth was asked a question about kamikaze dolphins. Is it true? And he said, I'm not ruling it out.
That's a real thing that the Russians used to do, though. Russians trained beluga whales with magnetic straps on them to go up under boats and submarines, basically. There's a great video on YouTube of I think they're Norwegian or Swedish people that befriended one and took the strap off it and retrained it. And there's a great story from the Second World War where the Germans trained dogs to have magnetic bombs on their backs to run under tanks and leave the bomb. But they were suicide dog missions because the dog couldn't release the strap.
Yeah.
But they trained them on Panzers.
Really?
Right? Because they didn't have any American tanks or British tanks. So these dogs run into the battlefield with these bombs on and run under all the German tanks basically, and blow them up. It's like, oops. I don't know if it's apocryphal, but I love the story.
Yeah. That sounds like something the Americans would do, to be honest, but oh, God. That's mad.
Yeah.
Well, and also back in the day, this is how we go on tangents, isn't it? Guided torpedoes and missiles, they trained pigeons to recognize silhouettes of ships on the horizon. And they literally trained them with Pavlov training to say, if you peck on a picture of an American ship or a German ship, or I think it was the Americans that did this, if you peck on a German ship, you get food. All right. So the pigeons were trained to just peck towards this thing, and then they were put inside torpedoes, and when they pecked, the torpedo went left and right towards the actual ship, basically.
There's a joke in there about reform voters.
If I started talking to you about Japanese humans we taught to be suicide bombers, you go, yeah, whatever, that's fine. Basically.
Yeah.
But teaching a pigeon to kill itself, you're going, hang on, that's
it's the intelligence of animals that fascinates me. Absolutely fascinates me.
Yeah.
I am an international animal botherer, so...
It's a weird word. I am considering training the seagulls round here to drop bombs on landlords. That's my current revenge plan.
Not a bad idea. The thing is, I can see Russians training beluga whales to be effective spies. You can see it, can't you? But then when you take me to America and dolphins, all I can see is SeaWorld, and I don't think that's going to go quite so well.
They'll just be performing tricks for you.
Yeah.
Shamu. Was it Shamu the orca? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like Douglas Adams said that the dolphins were the most intelligent species on the planet because they just had fun all day, basically. Yeah. And when the end of the world came, they went, all right, we're off now. Bye.
Yeah, they all left.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think that will come true. So, So I don't know what I mean, funnily enough, as I walked back home from Hove today, I knocked on the door of Peter Kyle's office, who's the MP for Hove.
Oh, yeah.
And I know him reasonably well. He wasn't in, but one of his assistants was. And I just said, I'd like to make an appointment. And they said, about what? And I said, I'd like to ask Peter what the fuck is going on with this bill, basically.
Brilliant.
And why it was just rolled out so badly. You know, it's not the right thing to do. And I don't know whether this is a big fight. Listen, when I sort my housing out, I will talk more about the story, particularly about this this bloody marvellous human being who's a Trumpton fan. Honestly, it just, I cannot tell you how that feels.
Yeah,
and how lucky
faith
I
in
am
humanity,
for
isn't it?
Basically, it makes you think maybe it was worth doing these damn cartoons for 10 years.
Yeah,
basically,
paid off. No, that's amazing.
And that's not privilege elite connectionism and stuff like that. It's just
that's how the world
he
works.
happens
how
to
it
be in a
should work.
situation where he's got a place, and he was so angry about Brexit because they wanted to live in Greece. They do live in Greece now because he's put the effort in, basically. But it means they can't come back and forth like they used to. So he just wants somebody secure in their retirement house, basically.
Oh, that worked perfectly,
nice.
wouldn't it?
That's brilliant.
It's kind of
sometimes things happen for a reason, I think.
Out. Yeah.
Let's hope this one comes off.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah. So, what time?
But you, Sally, you're running for election this week, is that?
Well, yeah, it was more of an experiment than I'm desperate to be a councillor, to be honest. I live in the greenest area of the town, and there were no left-wing candidates to be had. So when the Greens said, does anybody want to be a paper candidate? I went, yeah, and maybe I'll do a bit. But then some things happened, which I'll talk about next week after Purda. So the cards are just going to fall where they may. And next week's going to be interesting.
So you might be accidentally elected, though.
I might accidentally be elected, which would be hilarious.
Great time to be a paper candidate for the Greens, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, it's general. It's like, I think it's been like Lib Dem forever, like all three of them. So I don't know. But,
and to be fair, the Lib Dems are reasonably good at doing councils and
always good at local
politics, basically.
Well,
so,
I mean, I could write a book with the things I found out since I became a paper candidate.
Yeah, really?
Oh, talk about scratching the surface, Mike. Oh, yeah.
I know.
Oh God, I've got
it. But yeah.
You're totally making me want to listen to the next episode now. That's
this is
basically just a way of making us come and listen.
It's a hook and tease, yeah.
Well, yeah. Do you remember those horrible photos in the group chat?
Unless of course, she does randomly end up elected. And then she's just going to go, no, I don't know. I never said anything about there being problems anywhere, basically. It's like,
exactly. Well, we already had to edit a portion of our podcast because of at their request, didn't we, Sal? So, yeah.
Oh, she turned on a sixpence.
We might have to shut the pod down if you get elected by accident.
Yeah, and also
I might have to go independent.
Great. And I think Trump's war in Iran's going great, basically.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Sally, what happened? What happened? It's like...
You see, the irony is that would need to put me in a straitjacket, except the way the world is right now, I'd be making sense.
Yeah. Do you know, it's good that you're running with all the things, because I've often, a lot of people ask me, why don't you run for some office of some sort, right? And I'm always honoured when people say that. But I always say to them that the reason you think I should run is that you think I could win, that I'd be a good candidate. Right?
Yeah.
And I think I probably would. I would throw all my ADHD effort into 6 weeks of campaigning. The posters would be funny. The clips would be great. And then I say, but the problem is that I am exactly the kind of person that could get elected. And then probably I'd be a really shit councillor or MP.
No, you would not.
Because the challenge for me would be being elected. Right. And that's the reason I don't run. So, because I think I want good people in those jobs, basically, and I want to support good people to run for them, people that I think would be good councillors or good MPs. And they're not always the most electable people, certainly. Yeah, I think Starmer is a really good example of somebody that's actually a good person for us to have running a government, but he's not very electable, really. He just won that election because it had to be him or the Tories, basically.
Yeah, or nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we end up with a good, competent bureaucrat running the country, but then he's politically all over the place and comms is all over the place and everything else because of that, because he's not really into the politics of it all, really.
Business imbeciles out of government and put politicians back.
When I was in hospital, there was only two things I learned in hospital about politics was that nobody else talks about politics except us weirdos, right?
Yeah.
We're not weirdos.
I went through 24 different male patients in my ward. All of them had visitors that I talked to. I talked to all the staff. Nobody talked about politics voluntarily at all, right? So I thought, well, I'm not going to do it because I've got to live with you people, basically. So let's see. And I could spot certain people in certain beds that I'm going, if I had to guess, I'd guess which way you're voting, and that won't be fun for you and me arguing 24 hours a day while we're trying to recover from surgery.
Yeah, that's a bit different.
But one guy, when he found out I was a political cartoonist, one guy engaged with me, and he was he'd been in publishing, and he used to publish Punch magazine.
Oh, yeah.
So he was really interested in the history of cartooning and everything else. And we started this great conversation about that. Then this other guy came over who lived on the Isle of Wight and was clearly a Nigel fan. And he came over to me and he said, the problem is, Mike, we don't have enough businessmen in Parliament. Right? And he said, Keir Starmer's problem is he's never run a fucking business. And I said, well, you do know that the government isn't a fucking business, don't you?
Voila.
So what qualifications does a businessman have to run government? You know, I said, Keir Starmer has much more experience of public service than Nigel Farage or any of these people, or, you know, Elon Musk or whoever it is that you admire because he's rich. And, you know, you're not going to win this argument with me that we need more businessmen. It's like in the NHS, there's a classic argument that we need more doctors and less managers. Now, my experience of the NHS is we need to get doctors out of senior management positions because they never did a course in their 9 years of study on how to manage an IT system or how to do human resources training or what food that you should have in the canteen. But they're making decisions about all of that. And having some professional managers in the NHS, proper ones, well paid, that do the job and their only job, actually would solve a lot of the problems that the NHS has got, because it's an incredibly doctor-centric system and they hold too much power and they don't have enough knowledge and experience to do those things, basically. So it's the same with government. I think I don't have any problem with lifelong politicians, because we need some of them, basically. We need people that care about politics and social policy and that stuff. You know? Yeah. Even the Tory ones.
Oh, look, there are some good eggs. They're just few and far between, aren't they?
Yeah, career politicians that actually put their heart and head into the job are worth having, of course,
and have an ideology they can express and a narrative they can sell. You know, because it's a sales job as much as anything else, or at least half of the job is a sales job.
True.
And I think the big problem Starmer presents to us is that in Rachel Reeves he chose basically the female version of himself. You know, highly competent, good bureaucrat. Well-meaning and everything else,
proud
but
Zionist.
neither of them are salespeople. You know, at least whatever we think of any of these arseholes that run the country, Blair and Brown. Blair's a salesman, Brown's a doer,
my God,
and an ideologue. Cameron and Osborne. Osborne never really had any pretensions to be the Prime Minister. He just wanted to get on with doing it, while Cameron fronted it and sold it. And they all sold us rubbish. They sold us austerity and Brexit and all that stuff. But
and an increasing wealth.
Fundamentally, I think that's our biggest problem, is we do not have somebody at the top of government that's trying to create a story for us that works as a nation.
I think we could do worse than abolish Oxford and Cambridge, to be honest.
One of my previous existences, I lived in Cambridge.
Not everyone, obviously, but they all come from there.
One of the things about Cambridge, I lived there for 5-6 years, maybe 10 years nearly.
I don't mean the places, universities.
No, they have this thing called Town and Gown, right?
No innocent
There are
should be
two
harmed.
cities in Cambridge. There is the city of the university, and there is the city. You know, and there's poverty in that town. There's working class people in that town, and nothing in that city is designed to help them in any way, shape, or form. Everything is centered around that university. But I was just in Madrid, and Maria teaches in an English academy in Spain. She might not thank me for saying it's called the Canterbury Academy, right? And you find a lot of places in Spain that are like, the Paddington Bear Academy of English, basically. You know? But they teach using Oxford and Cambridge texts and exams, right? Yeah. And Oxford and Cambridge have a massive brand reputation for learning English around the world.
Oxford Press do a lot of it, don't they?
Oxford Press and Cambridge University Press. That's where you buy all the books for those courses. And there are 635 academies like that in Spain.
Wow.
It's good business. Good business.
Yeah.
Wow. The haves and the have-nots.
But you're right. In terms of the elitism of those universities, I absolutely think we need to do something.
How did Liz Truss get through, please? Anyone?
Didn't she do the standard PPE course or whatever?
Yeah,
but nevertheless. Or did she get kicked in the head by a horse afterwards?
I genuinely think they get through that course at Oxford in particular, basically, because it's like if the number of Formula One drivers that are only there because they brought a lot of money to the game.
Yeah.
Basically. And it's the same thing if Truss has got the ability, if somebody spots her as a potential politician, it's like being an NFL football player in college. They just go, oh, this one's manipulable enough to sell oil for us, basically. So
right.
Let's encourage
Liz Truss is the Lance Stroll of politics.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I totally think
that might go over your head, Sal, as a non-F1 fan.
That's fine. I'll just laugh along.
Lance Stroll's dad owns a team, and he's a terrible racing driver, but he gets the gig every week. So
Really? Yeah. Oh my God!
You don't get to be a Formula One driver unless Daddy brought you a go-kart. Basically,
yeah.
It's not. It's just not possible. You know, it's not exactly the most flat class system. Basically,
no, it's incredibly expensive. My son actually sort of asked me about it, and I was like, "Nope, we are not even close to that bracket, mate. I'm very sorry."
Why don't you try for something more realistic, like becoming a Premiership player?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, he hates all sport, really, but so he's becoming a filmmaker instead. So that's good. So he can do that on his iPad.
On Will's second Christmas, we got him one of those, the little baby cars, motorised, that they can drive themselves around the house. We got him one of them off eBay, and it played the most horrific 5 Chinglish electro tracks.
The same one.
On repeat, and I had to pull the battery out in the end. But he got in it, and his little baby girl was ever so cute, and he was dead excited, and he started driving around. At the time, we were doing this house up, and we'd converted a garage back into a living room, but it had only just been plastered, so it was totally empty. And he was driving around, and I'm like, how the fuck is he controlling that car? He's not even 2. And I was like,
naturally got it.
We've got another Lewis Hamilton here.
Yeah.
And then my brother comes in the door with the remote control in his hand, didn't he? Like a prick. No!
Damn it.
Then again, nowadays those things are almost robots anyway, basically. So,
true.
Maybe that's exactly where it'll head.
Although, as we reported on the pod last week, China have now legislated against companies making redundancies because of AI. China.
I was talking to a friend about this today. I've taken a controversial. I mean, this is part of my post-operative look. If uncaring right-wing people are going to use these things to make money, then I'm going to do good things with it, but use their model. So
I like it.
I've obviously gone through all of the same processes of thinking about, as an artist, and particularly as a digital artist, you have to sit there going, okay, well, that's going to change my world quite substantially.
That's what happened to Dom.
I'm old enough, and I've gone through enough technology bubbles. I worked in the internet in the early days, and technology in general in very early days. Like old enough to have been selling computers in a shop where everyone's going, "What's that? That's got keys on it. That's amazing."
You couldn't actually lift it up.
And I've totally seen them change the employment market, but they very rarely actually destroy the employment market. And everyone's fears about AI, I think I've heard that story about the internet. I've heard that story about lots of things. My new position on it is to say, okay, I'm going to train an AI agent with all of my 15 years of artwork to recreate my artwork quicker than I can do it using the tools that I currently use, to make it a tool for me. And then my job is the creative input into that and the keeping it all within my brand. But I'll be able to be a lot more productive. So Maria and I are working on a project to create books for 3 to 6 year olds to teach English as a foreign language, but make it fun. Nice. And that way I can produce 12, 15 books a year instead of 3, basically, because I'm not asking it to do the creative bit of what I do. I'm asking it to do the technical bit of what I do, the rendering,
the
and
manufacture bit. Yeah,
if I have to build a model of a flower pot with a flower in it to stick on the head of a teddy bear, that could take me 3 or 4 hours. Whereas if I just say, here's my bear, here's 20 versions of my bear, stick a flower pot on its head, I don't see that as cheating. I just see it as, you know, it
you're just laying
the
foundation work, aren't you, first, and then telling it to manipulate it.
My argument is going to be that if I've trained it on my artwork, then that's trained on my copyright, and it's still my copyright when I put it out there. And if you want to rip it off and use it yourself, but if you want to be inspired by it, that's fine. But if you want to use it and pass off as me, good luck, because I will take you to court, basically. And that's exactly what Disney are doing. Those are the lawsuits they're bringing at the moment towards AI companies. And I think we need to get them get them regulated. And that's just in the art sector, but the law sector and accounting and everything else. But in my experience with technology, what tends to happen with it is it does get rid of some really shitty jobs, right? And that doesn't necessarily leave those people unemployed as long as we come up with a strategy for how we retrain them to do things with AI. And we're not doing that at the moment. This government's not doing it. America's not doing it.
When AI comes out, there'll be a UBI. Anywhere? Where's that, Elon? Where did that go?
It's nowhere. Well, they're never going to do it.
I know.
That's why governments need to do something. And the irony that China is saying, actually, we're going to have a socially progressive policy about this.
Yeah.
Because the problem,
faster.
Essentially, I think America and China are the two countries in an AI arms race now. And no other countries, other than grouping together like the EU or something, are actually going to stand a chance of competing at the moment because of the way things have gone and the way things always go in technology. What we all need to do is recognize that we are the market for their AI stuff. And if we all got together and said, okay, let's, either in the EU or ideally globally, let's say to China and America, you can have access to our markets, but here's the rules.
Yeah.
Basically, we're all going to regulate you the same way. Now, it might be idealistic to think we could convince every country to do that. But fundamentally, if you can come up with some really good rules that protect the workforce and the creative industries and the legal industries and everything else, and then I don't see why it would be a problem for America and China to say, okay, those are the rules. They do it with the EU now in tech. They abide by the rules, basically. And I think it's one of the other problems with Brexit, isn't it? That we had such power as the EU, as part of the EU, to be able to control that. And now we're flapping around in the wind going, oh, we need AI. Let's sign up with these lovely Palantir people. They're nice.
Christ.
My MP, Peter Kyle, signed that frickin' deal.
He should
be
locked up for that.
I bumped into him on a walk on the Downs, and I basically said to him, what the fuck have you done?
It's about...
Yeah, he said, well, Mike, we need AI. It's going to be great for the country. I said, Palantir won't be great for the country. It won't create a single job in this country, and all it will do is start spying on all of us, including you, basically. So,
it's horrific.
Stupid move.
It does seem that the NHS are trying to wangle a way out of it, though, so there's hope.
I hope they do. Listen, I rang my doctor's surgery today, and I was answered by an AI receptionist. And I got a lot further using it than I do with the normal receptionist.
Okay.
So I was like, this is okay, basically.
Pros and cons on the AI, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think everything's going to change, and I think a progressive government would see those changes coming and do something about it. But we can't hope, just to bring this, because we knew we'd all go off on tangents, but to bring this back to the kind of theme of this, the Renters Act, it's like they didn't think this through in terms of how they implement it. And didn't realise the damage that it would do to the population they're trying to protect. That's the thing.
I'm not sure they care at this point.
I think they do. I just don't think I don't think somehow they planned it. I think they missed it.
But they never do. There's no foresight with anything. There's never any weighing up of, pros, cons, what might happen, what mitigations do we need to put in place, what contingencies do we need? None of that. Just, that'll do, chuck it out.
Yeah.
I think Phil Morehouse constantly is saying they are doing a lot, and that's part of the problem. They are trying to fix 14 years of Tory government problems, and that is a bit boring and a bit, a bit of a grind.
But they're doing it in the worst. Why is he trying to do all this without implementing Leveson 2 while he's getting all the backlash? It's mental. It makes no sense.
And that's the problem the Democrats had in the States, is just thinking, we got rid of Trump, we don't need to change anything. You know, and it turns out they should have done. They should have actually absolutely protected themselves against this second term. And I think Labour's got the same problem. Is there an arrogance of government that's saying, look, if we play by the gentleman's rules that we've always played by, everything will be fine. Whereas you've got Farage over there learning everything from Trump's campaign. I think we're saying this in another podcast recently. I think Farage's plan, such as it is not about long-form transformation of the country. It's not about controlling immigration. It is about becoming Prime Minister, making a fuckload of money, and going to live somewhere nice, basically.
100%.
And that's Trump's plan, and now Farage has got a model, Western civilization.
You pretty much said that last pod, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
You said he's not in it for the job. He doesn't really want it.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's not
at all.
When he got this 5 million quid from Thailand, and then he announced he was going to run as an MP. If you go back and look at that speech, he said, I'm standing in this election, but I'm going to be the leader for the next 5 years, which means I'm going to get Prime Minister at the next election. And then I'll rake in all the money, and then I'm off. And you've got Richard Tice running the show, basically. It's like...
Tyson Yusuf. Oh, my God.
The 8-man cabinet.
That's what we should all be fighting against now. The issue now is, let's just be realistic. He is aiming at Trump 2.0. Let's learn everything we can from what's going on in America and do the job. That's lovely. That is lovely. I like that.
We've got a team spamming the town. I say we. There's just a collection of people who are like, no, not on our watch.
It's tricky though, isn't it? Because it goes back to what we were saying about the people that say we should have more businessmen running the country. Because when
it's not a business.
When there's a story that Farage got 5 million quid, there is a certain percentage of the population that go, well, that's great. Maybe I'll get 5 million quid as well if I vote for him, basically. And,
Are people
just
really
not
that
seeing
dense?
that.
There's something wrong with that thinking.
I think so. I did a cartoon version of the Banksy statue this week.
Oh, it was really
pretty
good.
Popular. And it's being popular. This is what I love about the internet, is it's popular because a bunch of right-wingers have found it and they're putting their illiterate comments underneath it, basically. And you just think, no, these people absolutely believe Nigel Farage is going to save them, and they can't see the joke, and they can't see what Banksy was saying, and they can't see any of that stuff. They're just going, he's going to save me, and I don't know what from. Themselves, maybe.
Well, they don't know. Nobody really knows. It's all a sort of a mythos around Farage, isn't it? He doesn't. It's just all noise.
Great. It is fundamentally, we need to learn what works with Trump and what works with Farage, and it is about sales. It's a horrible term of it's about sales, marketing, and narrative, basically. And if you get the narrative right and a vision for the country that works, then and you can sell that story to people and get them to believe in it, then you've got a good thing. But Starmer's narrative was pretty much, we're not the Tories, and they're not. And well done, you achieved that one. What's the new narrative?
You're worse than the Tories,
basically?
it turns out.
Well, in a lot of cases,
for some people, the most vulnerable.
Exactly.
I mean, just to bring it full circle. Sorry, I know we're running late.
No, I was just going to say we need a populist bureaucrat on the left. That's the sales part with the technocratic kind of way of governing. Yeah.
Or a partnership like has been proved to work in the past. Yeah. And I don't know. I think Starmer's smart enough to know that, and I don't know what his plans are for the next couple of years. But I voted for him as leader. I'm a member of the local Labour Party, and we were having a problem with anti-Semitism within the party. It wasn't anti-Zionism, it was definitely anti-Semitism happening. Yeah, right. And we had a large Jewish contingency in the local party. And I was asked to come in to help deal with that, really, just to stand up to these people, basically. And Starmer came down and basically said, I will deal with this. I will fix the party. And then he did, much quicker than I thought he would. Whether we all like that or not, whether some people got damaged by that, and we lost some good people from the party as well as bad. But he did it much quicker than I thought, and then got elected. And I thought I was voting for a leader that would be still wallowing around for 10 years and then be replaced. I thought it was like a John Smith situation. Fix the party and then we'll get a Neil Kinnock or something, basically, or a Tony Blair, As it turns out, we ended up with the guy that was really just looking at the nuts and bolts of the party and trying to make it electable, and then by random chance got elected because the Tories had screwed things up so much that I didn't expect that to happen, So you live and learn.
Absolutely. Right, what we got? Shall we? 105 we're on. Shall we wrap it up for today? Unless you've got any more pressing issues we'd like to cover. But I think we got through quite a lot of good stuff there.
When I asked you about how long does it run, it was mainly on Mike, shut up occasionally, basically. So
we do exactly the same. Yeah. We have to manage ourselves because we... what was the Christmas special? We did a
like
live,
4
didn't
hours.
We? Yeah, we went
4 hours.
Something
That's
crazy like that, yeah.
I love doing Graham's podcast. It used to be on a Friday, now on a Sunday. But the problem is it can just go on for hours and hours and hours if you don't keep it to theme and just say, right, now shut up. Basically.
I think that's something we've learned over the last few months, isn't it? To be a bit more disciplined, to go, right, we need to wrap this now because we're sort of getting like hour and a half, and people don't want to listen to an hour and a half podcast sometimes. You're like, No,
but there are certain personalities in life, especially mine, which are just like, oh, there's silence, I must fill it.
That's ADHD brain, I know that.
Yeah. It's like,
and so does Don now, bless him. Forever interrupting him. Not on purpose.
Sorry, Don.
No, it's
ADHD
fine.
people also constantly apologise for doing it as well. They're like, sorry, I know what I'm doing. I'm sorry, just tell me to shut the fuck up. I will not take offence, I promise you, basically. It's like...
Yeah, but I'm quite happy to sit and listen to people when they're talking good stuff. So it's fine by me.
I went to a party that my youngest son's, they're about to have a baby. I had to go to a baby shower, which I genuinely sat there with all the people that were over 60. And we were all, the one woman, Maureen, who was there, was 69, next door neighbour. And she sat there and she said to me, I had to Google what one was before I came here. And I said, well, I've got to be honest with you, Maureen. So did I, just to check what my obligations were, because
showered by babies.
What is this? Why are we doing this?
Thanks, America.
But yeah, exactly. It was just another Americanism that we adopted, basically. But that was quite telling as well, because it was in Kent, in a fairly close-knit family. And again, it was another one where I have to go, Mike, do not talk about politics, Mike. Don't do it, Mike. This is family. Off. Don't do this. But again, Farage is king down there, basically.
He certainly is in Kent.
It's baffling,
when
isn't
it did come up. But I was lucky enough to be, one of my son's best friends is a BBC producer. And she's doing really well for us. She now runs a podcast for the BBC. And she was saying that podcasting is a result of finding all the ADHD people and giving them a microphone. It's like...
Don, have you got something you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think I can see that, especially some of the
maybe
guests
this is the modern diagnosis.
Like
yeah. All the doctor has to do is sit there and go, and do you do podcasting? Yes, right, okay, you've got ADHD. Here's some drugs. Stop doing the podcasting.
And it's a political podcast. Oh, okay.
Here's some more drugs.
Exactly, yeah.
Here's your Valium.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right,
listen, it's such a pleasure to meet you both. And I really
you too, lovely.
I really am honoured that you asked me to be on this, Sally.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, thank you. This is exactly why we do it, to highlight these things, because like you said, because it's not just me and it's not just you. It's thousands and thousands of other people for years and years 100%. And years, and it's wrong. Mm-hmm. It's got to stop.
Yeah.
So we've got to keep the conversation alive. So thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Hey, it's
very much so.
Thank you.
And may you continue to heal and get well. And I hope everything works out, obviously.
All the best for you.
I am honestly very proud of myself, the way that
you
this
should
has
be.
gone, and my doctors.
You've levelled up.
I have a genuine feeling that I have another lease of life, and I need to use it well. Basically.
That's wonderful.
Perfect.
Yeah. But that's the classic cancer story is I start running fucking marathons and I keep saying, no, not doing that.
No, don't be that man. No.
I'll do more cartoons, but I'm not I'm not doing
not doing that. Fine. Right, on that note, I think we're going to wrap it. So, thanks a lot for coming in, Mike. Amazing. And we'll put a link into the show notes from your awesome cartoon work that you do as well. So, really appreciate you coming in. And
my pleasure.
Bye for now. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.